Welcome to Insights from the Couch, where real conversations meet real life at midlife.
We're Colette and Laura, two therapists and best friends, walking through the journey right alongside you. Whether you're feeling stuck, restless, or just unsure of what's next, this is a space for honest conversations, messy truths, and meaningful change.
And our Midlife Masterclass is now open. If you're looking to level up, get into action, and make midlife the best season yet, go to insightsfromthecouch.org and join our waitlist. Now let's dive in.
Hi guys, we have a great episode for you today. A little bit of technical difficulties on this one. Colette is joining late on this episode, so I'm going to start us out. But in the middle of the episode, Colette will join us. But today we have a great guest. This is Christina Woods, who is an internationally recognized clinical hypnotherapist, rapid transformational therapist, empowerment coach, and Reiki Master, who leads women to realize their worth, shed old programs, and align with their authentic selves. Combining her 3 decades in corporate leadership, Christina has turned her personal triumph over adversity into a beacon of hope for hundreds of women worldwide. We get into it all, her own personal stuff, and how it applies to so many of us, ditching the good girl, people-pleasing, imposter syndrome, all of that stuff. So without further ado, it is Christina Woods. So welcome to the podcast. So nice to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Laura. I'm happy to be here.
So just tell me about your work and how you got started. You had mentioned that you got started in the corporate world. So I want to just hear about your journey.
Sure. Yeah, I had a whole life before this life, and it was about 30 years in the corporate world. I don't think that's unlike many women in midlife where we decide, wait a second, that's not what I want to do anymore. So for many, many years was this high-functioning corporate VP running around the world, being super mom. And that all started, in college, and even before then, I felt like, boy, if I have this checklist of all these things I should do, go to college, have the corporate life, and I have a great family and a beautiful home, and I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to do, and had a great bank account and leading all these teams. And at some point, I hit a wall. And my body hit a wall, my mind hit a wall, my marriage dismantled, and things weren't flowing very well in my life. And at that point, I just decided, this isn't what I want to do anymore. But I really had to look inside and decide, who am I? What do I want to do if I'm not all these things? That was absolutely my identity. And that's when I really started to go inside and do a lot of therapy, a lot of looking inside. And that's how I discovered hypnotherapy. And boy, did I realize some things about myself that weren't even true, that had been leading to this perfectionist and supermom and all the things that had exhausted me. And I thought, wow, that's incredible. I want to do that. And I left an identity and a great career that I did enjoy in many ways, but also wanted to do something else. So here I am in this whole new business and life.
That's incredible. I mean, it's something I see all the time with because I see young women and older women, and I have like the 30 somethings that are like doing exactly that. They've got the checklist, it's on to the next. You can't slow them down because they're building this like super identity. But of course, there's always like a point where you hit a wall. There's like this inflection point. For you, was it your marriage, or was that like just sort of a symptom of like a larger unraveling?
Oh, it was absolutely a larger unraveling. It was, not to start when I was born, but I was absolutely, I was raised by a single mom. I was the oldest of 4, and I was absolutely raised with this feeling that it was my job to take care of everyone and not be a problem and just make life easy. And so, yes, it was a bigger unraveling and really a belief, I'm on my own. Nothing I really had identified until I was almost 50. And at that point, things I didn't even know about myself, some trauma that I literally had buried until I was 50 in therapy. I mean, things I didn't even realize and I was married 26 years, that now in hindsight, I can look back and say, okay, that's why I wouldn't allow any support in. I wouldn't allow anyone to help me. I wouldn't, I would say yes to everything in corporate because I thought that made me the person they could go to at midnight and say, hey, do that report. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. And I'll still make the orange slices for the soccer team and, do all those things. And the people pleasing and the overgiving and, the autoimmune diseases and all the things just said no more. And, the marriage had just completely dissipated and resentment and all the things that happen. But a lot of good things that I've discovered about myself now that I've turned into beautiful enlightenment and also healed so many things inside. And now I get to do this.
I love it. I mean, that like menopause wall.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's no joke, right? Like we
No.
talk about how the caregiving hormones kind of leave the body and like space in the mind clears. And really, yeah, your body suffers under all this weight, all this people pleasing, all this overgiving, and then it's like you just can't take it. And it sort of feels like this is like this huge crisis, but also opportunity for you to like step into your own power.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those moments. I call it my garden moment because I was gardening and pulling weeds. This wasn't a glamorous moment, but I was gardening, pulling weeds. And I literally remember this moment where it was like, when are you going to stop making everybody else happy and make yourself happy? Do something for yourself. And I literally knew in that moment I would end my marriage, leave corporate, go to therapy, all the things I had been avoiding. And I was scared of going to therapy like a lot of people. I had read all the self-help books, I'd gone to the yoga retreats, I'd done all those things, but that wasn't deep enough. It wasn't what I needed to do. I knew I needed to go deep inside. I knew that I needed to do the deep inner work. I knew that why was I always thinking I was bad? I know now that's connected to shame. I didn't know then.
Yeah.
I thought it was because I put too much on the credit card, or I yelled at my kids, or I nagged. I thought that I was just bad. But now I know what it's connected to. And when you know that, then you start to have compassion. And when you have compassion, oh, wow, your whole world can change. And that is incredible.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There's something totally different about like doing the deep inner work where you go inside and you really take a look as opposed to like the frenetic self-help that's like up here and feels very surface and feels like another thing to do. So it sounds like you went, like, tell me about the types of therapy you did. And obviously, the hypnotherapy left a big impression on you.
It did. It did. And when I got sick, I had vertigo and it wouldn't go away. And I went to about almost 20 doctors and I listened to a hypnotherapy audio and just online, like on Mon Valley, and it made me feel better. And I remember the doctor laughed at me. And I thought, well, it's making me feel better. Why are you laughing at me? It's making me feel better. And then I just, went on my merry way. Someone recommended that I go to hypnotherapy, and I did. Went to a couple sessions, and it uncovered very, very quickly some childhood trauma. And she recommended, I think you need EMDR. I'm like,
Okay.
what is that? Right now, of course, 7 years later, definitely know what EMDR is, but it very, very quickly identified some things that I needed to address. And so from there, it sent me on an entire journey that's changed my life. But I realized that there were things and beliefs I had about myself that, of course, were never true. And even in that simple meditation where I was able to listen to powerful words, powerful images, and also identify something so quickly. And of course, as I learned more about hypnotherapy, and if someone needs EMDR or therapy, and I do all those things, those are available. But hypnotherapy also is a very unique method to get to the root also, and a method to help identify and it absolutely can help in so many other ways. So that's how I first discovered it.
Yeah. And you just had a profound, like, healing reaction. It, like, made some space for you.
It did. It did. And it was wonderful that it helped me, but she also knew I needed something different. And so it was a lane that helped me, and it served its purpose, and it opened a door for me. But there are many modalities, there are many things that help us, right? And I still use hypnotherapy. Of course, it's what I do. I still use EMDR. I use energy healing. I use talk therapy. These are ways that we can help heal ourselves. I don't think we need to put ourselves in a box.
I agree. And I'm like very much of like whatever works, like
Yeah.
whatever I find that works. And I think that what you're getting at too, and for our listeners is like these deeper modalities like EMDR, like hypnotherapy. I'm thinking of like somatic experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
like anything IFS, internal family systems,
Yep.
anything that gets into the body and like into a felt sense is 10 times more powerful than your traditional talk therapies. And I
Yeah.
think people need to know that when they're, and not that talk therapy doesn't have its place. I do it
Sure.
every day in
Great.
one capacity or another. And people need it. They need to like sort of get their stuff out there. But there's a point where you have to go like a level deeper for some of this like second order change to take place.
That's
And
right.
I think you kind of got onto that pretty quickly.
I knew when I wanted to leave corporate, I wanted to do something to help women. Before college, when I started college, I wanted to be a psychologist. And then I started doing science classes, and they put me in front of some rats, and I thought, this is not me. So I went into the sales and marketing route. And so full circle, right? So sometimes in life we just, we go the long route, and that's what I did. But I knew that when I found out there were beliefs about myself that had ruled my life that weren't even true, that's when I knew that I wanted to help people see the truth about themselves, and that there were ways, whether again it's EMDR or hypnotherapy, that they could quickly identify things that aren't true and change beliefs by listening in this case with hypnotherapy. We get to the root in 2 or 3 sessions. We don't have to go for years. You can go and you can do this. I can create this amazing audio recording for you and rewire your subconscious mind, and you actually can feel and love yourself and feel you're enough and change a belief, because I literally believed I was bad, and I sabotaged the shit out of my life in many, many ways. That you actually can walk around and change these beliefs and start loving yourself. I was like, there's so many women walking around believing these things that aren't even true. They think they're a bad mother, bad wife, bad person, or they just eat cookies at night and they're just bad. And that's not even the real case. So when I thought that, I thought, you know what, I can learn this, I can do this. I mean, I was in higher education in sales and marketing. I was a VP of sales. And now I thought, I can learn this, I can do this. And I added energy healing because I feel my personal belief is that energy gets stuck and blocked, and it's just going to move it through us faster. So that's my personal belief. I don't do it with everyone. It's not everyone's thing. But for those that it is, it's to me an added thing that really makes a big difference. And I've since learned, theta healing, different hypnotherapy modalities, and whichever one someone navigates and latches onto, so I can switch it up. And some people are more in their head than others, and you got to use different modalities with them. But that's really was the core, was stop it, let's really just get to the core and really become who you are meant to be, because we're not born believing these things about ourselves. We have utmost belief and confidence, and we don't care if we have chubby thighs when we're a kid and food
Mm,
on our face,
you just hit on
and
one of my
stinky
pain
diapers. We don't
points.
care.
I had like chubby little thighs when I was a kid, and my mom used to like tell me that the foxes and wolves were going to come and eat my thighs.
That's so fucked
I
up.
was like, it was crazy. And so like, I don't know if I came with like this belief that I had these like, I cannot go to like a water park to this day
I
and
know,
have
we
like
can't
my
make this
thighs
up, right?
exposed. So I need some hypnotherapy around that.
Did
I'm
you
telling you
already
what.
talk about the process of hypnotherapy?
No.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Because it's one thing that I am not trained in and that I have not ever experienced. So I have some colleagues and friends who do it, but I would love to hear more about how it works, what you do, what it's really like and not like, that sort of thing.
Sure. Sure. So it's a natural state, and most people don't realize when you're in hypnotherapy, you talk the entire time. I think we all watch Netflix and think it's kind of weird and funky, but it's not. So it's a natural state, meaning that we go into those brain waves that you go into when you're in hypnotherapy. We sort of go into them throughout the day. So if you've ever
Like a
driven
fugue
home,
state?
what is that?
Like a fugue state when you drive home and you get off the highway and you're not, like a
Yeah, yeah.
dissociative fugue.
Exactly. So you're driving home, you don't remember if you stopped at the light and you're in your driveway and you're like,
Yep.
"Uh-oh, did I follow the rules? Did I even stop at that light? I don't remember." And
Yeah.
you're cooking dinner in your head and you're like, "I think did I run the red light? I don't know." So yes, that state
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So when you go into hypnotherapy, you're not in a stuck state because people think, why would I sign up to lose control and have you control my mind? And these are doctors and lawyers and executives that I see, and this is the first question they ask. So I always start with that because I don't think anyone would pay me to lose control. I certainly wouldn't. But there's alpha theta brainwaves. We go into a theta brainwave, which is just a place where your mind is a lot more suggestible. And when you're more suggestible, we can give it great suggestions. So there is your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is about 5-10% of how we think and see the world. It's our thinking mind. Our subconscious mind is 95% of how we think and see the world, our lens. But it's our feeling mind, our emotion mind. And we, as fancy pants people, we think that, everything we think is our very logical, and I'm very, I know better. I know better. I know I'm good. I know I'm smart. I don't know why I choke when I talk in front of people. I should know better. I shouldn't eat that. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't date losers. I don't know what my problem is. All men suck, whatever it might be. But really, it's those beliefs in our subconscious. They're 1 million times more powerful than your conscious mind. So right there, we can just stop beating ourselves up about some of our behavior and feelings because it's just deep down in there in our subconscious. So we access that in hypnosis, in that brainwave state. You cannot access it in this alpha thinking, talking state we're in now. It's shut like a vault, can't access it. So we go in those brainwaves and we can access it in hypnosis and say, hey, what's the root cause of this behavior, this belief, this thought? And we find the root cause. We go back to scenes and moments in your life, and it's like little pictures. You might say to me, I'm eating cereal. It's I'm 5 years old. I'm eating cereal and I'm feeling this way. I'm in school. I'm in front of my teacher and she said this to me. And these might be very benign situations in your mind, but we're putting together stories and feelings, and they do tell a story about what meaning did you attach to these situations and scenarios. And boy, oh boy, do we start to get some incredible beliefs that were formed. And they're primarily, when did you feel different or rejected or not enough? These are the most common ones. And from there, we can begin to change. And from there, I create a custom audio recording, because why one person believes something is going to be completely different. The meaning they attach to is going to be completely different than someone else. So rather than create a bunch of generic hypnosis audios, I want to know specifically why someone feels a certain way and what their beliefs were based on. And then they listen to that recording for at least a month every single day to rewire, because obviously we have that great neuroplasticity.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm curious. It sounds really interesting and similar to EMDR in some ways, which I'm an EMDR therapist. So, one thing I'm curious about too, just from my EMDR work, is that sometimes there are people, like, let's just say not good enough, right? That it's so pervasive. There aren't necessarily specific incidents that led to that belief. It's so diffuse and pervasive across their life. So is this something that can work even when there weren't specific inciting incidents or like core touchstone memories, like where you're just able to get in there into that different brain wave and like help somebody recondition those beliefs without it having to correlate to certain events?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I was going to mention that. So the specific situation or scenario or memory or moment is not the most important at all, or even depth of trance, or, because there are people with anxiety, or, they're not able to relax, they're not able to go deep. And many of my clients, including myself, because, I know what's happening when they're putting me in hypnosis, and I'm thinking, okay, I know what she's going to say, I know what she's going to do, but none of that has an impact on the depth of how this works. So it's always just this general sense. So it makes no difference to me. Some people don't see anything when we go back.
Some people can't visualize.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, they can't visualize. So they might say, I see a big red orange feeling. I feel a tingliness in my toes. And other people have great big visuals. So there's zero pressure to see or feel anything, but it's always a profound experience in some way. And that's my job, to help them guide through that. And it's incredibly different for each person. Yep.
Yeah. So the process, though, you're talking them into a hypnotic state. And do you find that almost anyone can access that to some degree? Because I do have, as you're talking, first of all, it sounds so cool. Now I really want to go try it. But I have this belief that I'm like, there's no way someone could hypnotize me. Like my mind will like fight you or something.
But like one of my clients right now is a psychologist. She's, I think, done it for 30, 40 years. And she's like, yes, you're not going to be able to do that with me. Not going to happen. And so,
but it works.
No, it works. Yeah. Absolutely.
But it sounds like it's not this cartoon character idea of what we think of as hypnotherapy is like somebody's going to turn you into a duck and you're going to quack around the stage, like in the old school hypnotherapy. It's just really settling your brain into like a different brain wave.
It is. And I'll say this, if you don't want it to work, it's probably not going to work. So I mean, our brain is pretty powerful. We are powerful. So, if I have to convince you that it'll work, we probably should talk about why you want to be convinced. But, it's in terms of being relaxed or the process working, absolutely. Don't worry about that. I'll get you relaxed, and that's my job. And I look for signs and signals, and it might take 5 more minutes to get you into that state.
Right.
And I do have you listen to things before the session to get used to my voice. I might give you a little extra something if anxiety or sleep is an issue. Yeah, there's a little bit of a process,
But I imagine you do really need to have trust, because you're you are allowing yourself to be in that zone with somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And your words, the client's words, are the most important in the audio. So, if feeling free and relaxed and I want to walk into a room feeling confident, well, you don't want my definition of that. What does that feel like to you? For some people, for every person, it's different. What do you want to, what do you feel like when you walk in a room? And some people are actually quite confident already and they want to go to the next level. Yeah. Some people can barely walk in the room. Mm-hmm. So what are the words and the feeling? And I use their words. And we really spend a lot of time on that because the mind will respond to that so much more. And that's really, really important. I spend a lot of time, hours and hours on these audios, probably 3 or 4 hours customizing the audio and choosing the music, because in the body, the music, I use theta music, and it's really important. Some can make the body nervous, some can make it calm. So it's a big deal.
What's theta music?
It's a certain brainwave state that allows for your brain to go into a deeper trance, a deeper state. So you're just in that deep subconscious state for the words and the images to even go deeper and to rewire that subconscious mind.
Yeah, it sounds like, this is what we do even with whether it's counseling or coaching, is like that envisioning process of like, what is it that you really want, and going down to like the granular level and the language. And then you're like basically customizing it into these audibles where it's being mirrored back to them, and it gets into their system, wired into their system in a way that really changes how they show up in the world, I'm guessing.
Exactly, exactly. So, and with this hypnotherapy, we're finding, the root of for example, I'm not enough. The audio is, our brain learns by repetition and visual images and responds to those pictures. So every day it's about 15, 20 minutes, at least 21 days to rewire a new belief, at least 68 days if there's a lot of trauma. So, they might be listening to it much, much longer, but I'm meeting with them while they're listening because boy, oh boy, is there a lot of resistance. If you have been kept safe by having anxiety or staying away from the room and not feeling enough or pushing love away, and I've given you an audio that says, accept love, you are lovable, you're not going to say all of a sudden, oh yes, I let love in. You're going to have cranky days, you're going to push people away. Your whole being, your body viscerally is going to say, is going to reject. It's going to really, sometimes it stirs the pot before it accepts it. So I'm working with them to integrate these new beliefs as we go. Because sometimes we feel like we're taking 2 steps back, right, before we go forward. And you find that all the time. I did EMDR for 7, 8 years. And every day I drove there for, I think, the first 3 years. I thought, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And I know it's helping. And then, you're like, okay, I'm starting to see the crack in the sky. It's helping. So.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about like the typical client that shows up for you. I mean, I know is it mostly women that you see, or do you see both men and women?
I do see both men and women, but it is mostly women, and it's mostly high functioning women in terms of, they maybe run their own business, entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, business owners, some, stay-at-home moms who now are saying, who am I? What about my identity? I want to, I need to find myself. I can't, I have no voice anymore, and I'm feeling, resentment build up. So, a little bit of everything, but mostly women now who are feeling that their voice, I'm not enough. And a lot of that perfectionism, a lot of what we talked about in the beginning. And, the one thing I'm also finding is that women almost always will call me and say, I shouldn't be calling you. I have everything in my life. I'm grateful for what I have. They're high achieving. Again, they've checked a lot of boxes, but they also feel unfulfilled. Why do I feel unfulfilled? I have all these things, but there's something missing. There shouldn't be something missing. Why do I feel that way? And so it's almost this belief, like I have most of the pie, but there's something missing, and I should just shut up. I shouldn't complain about it. So it's this inner knowing that they are not listening to something inside and really need to attune back into their intuition and knowing they're enough to have compassion for themselves. It's a big
We
one.
we see it all the time, right?
That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge one.
And I love it when they tap into it.
Yeah. I have to read this because it's like just been picking at my brain as we've been talking. Have you guys heard of the documentary Heal? I think one of our guests talked to us about it. You've never heard of it?
I haven't.
You've heard of it. Okay. So basically, and I love this, that there's like certain guiding principles for healing. And I just want to read them because I feel like a lot of them are about emotion and moving emotion through the body and energy, right? But here are the principles if you want to heal. Radically changing your diet. Okay, we know that. Taking control of your health. That's very broad. Following your intuition. Using herbs and supplements. Releasing suppressed emotions. Huge, right? Increasing positive emotions. Embracing social support. Deepening your spiritual connection and having a strong reason for living. And I just love those principles because I think those are just like at the core of anything. If you really want to, if you're at one of these inflection points where you're disconnected from your body, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
and you're like, it's all gotta change.
Some of those we know, take your supplements, be healthy, but the intuition really, I find we ignore, especially if we're high achieving and we're practical and we get into action, and I'm all about action. I mean, I run a business, and we want to take action. We do things, I'm writing a book as well. We've all done things, but do we pause and listen to the intuition? And do we realize what clouds our intuition? What clouds our intuition? The fear versus intuition versus, can you just tell me what to do? Can you just tell me? Can you just tell me? I know I've asked so many people. It's like, yeah, but could you just, what are 3 steps?
Give
Can
me
I
a
just see my
tool,
book,
give me a
please?
skill. Yeah.
Yeah. So true. It's so true. I think it's interesting how for some people, they would accept feedback from a virtual stranger if it seemed like, if someone could say, this is the answer. Let's say someone had achieved something, or at least outwardly seemed to have achieved something. You'd be more likely, for some people, to rely on that person saying, here's what you need to do, than your own self. And I think that's the greatest gift you can get in life, is to be able to develop your own internal compass.
Yeah.
Because life's
Yeah.
complicated and it's not easy, and every situation has nuances, and you really have to be able to guide yourself from the gut.
Yeah, and that's, really what I love about what I'm able to do now with hypnotherapy is when we see the beliefs that aren't true, and we're able to change them, so we can reveal, the things that were clouding our intuition, or clouding how we were making our decisions, and we can get to our authenticity, and we can get to that space where, okay, wait a second, that was making me rush, because intuition is calm, intuition is sound, it's grounded. Intuition doesn't say you have to hurry up and make that decision, or that person's going to leave you. I had a client recently that just said, I'm just going to trust God and just marry him. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just leave it anyway. It's fine. It's like, wait a second. I don't know if that's actually trusting God. That feels very rushed and panicky. Let's hold on a second. And your intuition, and I just need, let's take some space. Why do I need space? Let's just do this. Let's just do this. So, and now that she's taken space, she's like, I think I understand why you suggested space. And she's seen the wisdom in the space. But intuition is calm. Intuition is grounded.
I've made a few decisions based on fear,
Oh.
and it's just never goes well.
Right. But fear at the same time is also a signal from the body that something warrants attention. So
Sure.
this is where it gets complicated, right? Fear does have to factor into, your intuition is calm and grounded, but it may also be telling you to pay attention to your fear. Sometimes it's there for a very good reason.
Well, this is true. Absolutely. Intuition absolutely can be fear and should be fear when you're in a situation.
When it's warranted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
but that's why we have to really dialogue with ourselves. And I love what you're describing about the hypnosis process is another way of getting behind, getting out of the thinking brain. Because even as therapists, Laura and I have talked about this a long time. We both started in this field as kind of talk therapists, right? Or that was the initial pathway. And not that there's never a value to talk things through. Obviously, insight is important, but it's not enough. It's necessary, but not sufficient. And over the course of our careers, and Laura, of course, correct me if I'm speaking for you in a way that doesn't fit, but we've both gotten into more experiential modalities because you have to really get into the body, get into the subconscious, access other states of being, whether it's through hypnosis or EMDR or some other modality, IFS.
Yep.
There's so many ways to get there, but you have to be able to get outside of that place in order to really enact change. You could talk about the same thing over and over for 20 years and have all the insight in the world. Right? I mean, most of my clients do have insight. That's not the problem,
Right.
but they are still stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, most of my clients have done a lot of therapy, a lot of different work. And by the time they get to me, they, they say, I don't want to work on that. I want to talk about that. I've already been doing that. And that's another thing about hypnotherapy is, we just ask the question. Let's say they want to work on what is my money block and why can't I create more of this in my life, or a relationship. The mind will go exactly where it's meant to go to find the root cause. And so whatever comes up, comes up. I'm just asking these questions. The mind will pop up and they will be utterly shocked. And I love it because whatever comes up, and they'll say, I didn't see that coming.
Wow.
I didn't see that. So it's great because they'll say, I didn't realize that situation with my father was still an issue, or that the thing that teacher said, or my old boss, or whatever it might be, I didn't realize it made that big of an impact, or was a piece. It's never the one thing, but was a piece still. Or that I heard that in my mother's womb, I could hear the doctor saying that, or my parents fighting. Because that's a big thing in hypnosis, is we hear things even in the womb. Surprisingly, it comes up a lot. And I could hear my mother crying a lot, or I could hear them fighting when I was a baby, or doors slamming, and how that impacted their body and their nervous system. And so I didn't realize that. And it's not me saying anything or guiding them. It's them. And it's that epiphany moment of, oh, wow, that paradigm shift they get to come to on their own terms. So it's pretty great.
So cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just quickly, how do you use the Reiki combined with the hypnosis? Is it those separate things that you do, or do you bring them together somehow?
I do both. There are moments in the hypnosis session where, especially depending on their nervous system, or there are a few methods in the hypnotherapy where we'll talk to a piece in their body. It's called role, function, purpose, or what is the role and function of this in your body, where they'll turn their eyes inward and speak to the part in their body.
Mm-hmm.
What is the role of anxiety in your body? What's its purpose, intention? So then we might have it become a color or a shape, and then I'll use Reiki to dissolve it. Or if they're really, really anxious, or it's a very traumatic moment, I'll have them calm down and I'll use Reiki. But other than that, it's a separate, and that's just a really beautiful, calming energy modality. For those that aren't familiar, it's like acupuncture without needles, clearing the energy meridians. And, people that have never had any energy healing really, really feel it, very calming and a way to move energy through our body. I started doing it when I first started doing hypnotherapy. I started getting really nauseous and sick because I could feel everyone's energy. And I thought, oh, great, I left corporate and now I'm sick all the time. And so I learned it for that, my own reason, to protect my own energy. And it worked instantly, stopped getting sick. And so then I started using it as a practice.
It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I've already thought of like 3 things I want to go try hypnosis
Same.
on. Have you?
Yeah.
Do it.
Oh my God, Laura. Yeah, okay. So let me
like
ask
my
you.
thighs. Like, let me be able to go to like a water park.
I finally accept my cellulite thighs. That's a good one. That's very concrete.
Yeah, that's really concrete. We could measure that.
Like mine would be sort of, I'm curious why I'm still unconsciously drawn to emotionally unavailable men. Like I know all the things. I'm a couples therapist. There's nothing I don't know about attachment styles and dynamics and patterns in my family. Mm-hmm. But there's something unconscious there that I would love to see what would come up in a different modality that I haven't explored. Wait, do you do it online?
Oh, yeah. Everything's virtual.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
All over the world. I have clients in like 6 continents.
Wow. Okay, I do want to do it. I'm going to
all
do
over.
it. So it is, there are some things that just in the gut feel like, oh, that would be too scary or that would be too much responsibility. But when those things are sort of insidiously and outside of conscious awareness getting in the way of what we could be capable of, that's where I think it's so valuable to try to rewire on a different level.
100%. And it's also, you have to have that energy capacity to hold that energy. You have to, so you have the beliefs, you switch the beliefs, you rewire the beliefs. But if your body and your energy can't hold that type of energy, you have to have both.
Right.
So you
Well,
have to
how do
have
you increase capacity in the body to hold energy?
Yeah.
So your energy has to match your mindset. So sometimes we have the belief, but we're energy, we're physical, we're spiritual, we're all these things. So sometimes we have a belief that we're worthy, but our energy body isn't a match. It's that fact that you were uncomfortable if we say a billion. It's like,
Right.
no,
Right.
my body just, we can feel it. You feel it in your body, right? Like our gut gets
Yeah.
tight.
My gut
Our
just
gut
said
gets
that's
like,
too much.
no,
That's crazy.
no.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
So you can start to feel if you say, like, what are your fees? We feel, yeah, I'm comfortable charging that. I'm comfortable
Yeah.
charging this. Well, no, definitely not. That would
Right.
mean people think I'm,
It's so interesting that you're bringing this up because like I'm just in the process of raising my fee, and it has been such like string and drum for the last 2 years really, where like I know I should do this. I know I should do this, but something inside me just couldn't do it. Like I just couldn't do it. And then all of a sudden I got to this place where it was like, no, it feels completely right. Feels
So you're-
absolutely completely right. And I could do it. I finally
yeah.
did it.
Good for
So
you.
it's like not only the belief that you're worthy, but your energy also can hold it.
Right.
But it took
So-
years.
So you can believe it all you want, but if your energy can't hold it, you'll lose it. You'll hold it for a month or two, a year, and you'll lose it. You'll lose clients. You won't believe it. You'll say, I shouldn't have raised it. See, I shouldn't have raised it.
Right. You'll
And then you'll
sabotage
believe
it.
something like that. You'll sabotage it. Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to hold it.
Okay, well, we're definitely going to be making appointments with you. And then
I would love
before,
to.
yeah, I think this is great. I'm so excited. So before we wrap up, give our audience some information on how they can get in touch with you. And if they want to work with you, where can people find you?
Sure. ChristinaLWoods.com is my website. And on there are free downloads, 10-day workbook, audios, things like that. Instagram is Christina.lwoods.
Great.
This has been great.
Oh my God.
So excited.
Thank you guys.
Yes, and we will be in touch. And for all of our listeners, reach out to Christina if you think this is as fascinating and helpful as we do. And let us know what you thought of this episode. Email us at info@insightsfromthecouch.org. Check out our website, insightsfromthecouch.org, for helpful downloads that will accompany this episode and more. And thanks again for being here with us for this great discussion.